The knife was still in her hand when the first body hit the marble floor. Elena stood frozen in the middle of the Moretti mansion kitchen, her white maid's apron stained with blood, while three armed men aimed their guns directly at her. One of them shouted, "Drop it!" She didn't move, not because she was brave, because she knew if she lowered the knife, the man bleeding behind her would die. Dante Moretti appeared at the kitchen entrance seconds later. The most feared mafia boss in the city stopped when he saw the scene. His guards surrounded him instantly, weapons raised. Dante didn't look at the wounded intruder. He looked at Elena, his new maid, the quiet woman he had hired only 3 days ago because his household manager claimed she could cook better than anyone in the city. Now she was standing over a dying assassin, holding the weapon that had cut him, and hiding something behind her back. Dante's voice was dangerously calm. "What are you hiding?" Elena's fingers tightened around the object. "Nothing." A gun cocked behind her. Dante lifted one hand. The guard lowered his weapon. No one questioned Dante Moretti, not even when he seemed to be making the wrong decision. He stepped closer. Elena instinctively moved backward. That small movement told him everything. She was afraid of him, but she wasn't afraid enough to run. Dante looked down at the blood on her apron, then at the unconscious man, then at the locked kitchen door. How did he get inside? Elena said nothing. Dante's eyes hardened. Who sent him? Still nothing. He took another step. "Elena." It was the first time he had said her name like that. Not as an order, as a warning. She finally looked into his eyes, and Dante immediately noticed what no one else did. She wasn't frightened because she had been caught. She was frightened because she knew exactly who had sent the assassin. Before she could answer, the wounded man suddenly reached for a hidden pistol. Elena reacted first. She kicked the weapon across the floor. Dante's guards opened fire. The assassin went still. Silence swallowed the kitchen. Dante stared at Elena. A maid shouldn't move like that. A maid shouldn't recognize a concealed weapon. And a maid certainly shouldn't know exactly where an assassin would hide it. Dante slowly turned toward his men. "Leave." They hesitated. "Now." Within seconds, the kitchen emptied. Only Dante and Elena remained. He picked up the hidden pistol. Then he looked at her. "You have 10 seconds to tell me who you are." Elena swallowed. "I'm your maid." Wrong answer. 9 seconds. She looked toward the dead assassin. "He wasn't here for you." Dante's expression changed. 8 seconds. "He was here for something in your study." 7. "What?" She hesitated. "The key." Dante immediately looked at her hand. The silver key was still clenched between her fingers. His private study key. The key that had disappeared from his safe 2 nights earlier. His face became unreadable. "You stole from me." "No. You broke into my study." "I was trying to protect you." That answer stopped him. Not because he believed her. Because no one spoke to Dante Moretti that way. Elena slowly opened her hand. The key dropped onto the counter. "I found it inside his coat." Dante picked it up. He examined the bloodstained key. Then his eyes returned to Elena. "What did you find in my study?" She looked toward the hallway. "Something your enemies don't want you to know exists." Dante's patience disappeared. "Tell me." Elena took a breath. "Someone inside this mansion is planning to kill you." Dante didn't react. He had heard threat before. But Elena continued. "They've already poisoned your food." His eyes narrowed. "Who?" "I don't know." "Then why should I believe you?" "Because I stopped you from eating it." That silenced him. 3 nights earlier, Elena had prepared dinner for Dante. She had noticed a faint bitter smell in the sauce. A smell no ordinary cook would recognize. She had switched his plate before he arrived at the table. Dante had eaten from the replacement dish. The next morning, the chef who prepared the original meal was found dead. Dante had assumed it was coincidence. Now it wasn't. Elena had known. She had recognized the poison. She had saved his life. And she had never told him. Dante stepped closer. "Who taught you to recognize poison?" Elena's eyes dropped. "My mother." "Your mother was a cook." "Yes." "Where is she?" Elena's face changed. "She died." "When?" 12 years ago. Dante watched her carefully. Something about the answer bothered him. Then his phone rang. He answered without taking his eyes off Elena. His security chief spoke rapidly. Dante's expression slowly darkened. What did you find? A pause. Where? Another pause. Dante's eyes shifted toward the mansion's upper floor. Don't touch anything. I'm coming. He ended the call. Elena waited. What happened? Dante didn't answer immediately. Then he said, Someone broke into my father's old vault. Elena's breathing stopped. Dante noticed. You know something. No. You recognize a name. She looked away. Dante moved closer. You knew my father. No. Then why did you react? Elena couldn't answer. Because 3 years earlier, her mother had left her one sealed envelope before disappearing. Inside was a photograph of Dante's father standing beside her mother, and written on the back were 4 words Elena had never understood. Protect his son, at any cost. She had spent years wondering what they meant, until 3 days ago, when she deliberately applied for a maid's position inside the Moretti mansion. She had come searching for answers. She had expected a cold mafia boss. She had expected danger. She had not expected Dante himself. And she certainly hadn't expected to care about the man she was supposed to investigate. Dante suddenly reached for her wrist. Why did you really come here? Elena looked into his eyes. For one dangerous moment, neither moved. Then every light in the mansion went out. A scream echoed from upstairs. Dante immediately drew his gun. Elena heard footsteps rushing toward them. Then a woman's voice came through the mansion security speakers. A voice Elena hadn't heard since she was a child. Her blood turned cold. Dante Moretti. Dante looked at Elena. The voice continued. Your father stole something from me. Elena's lips parted. She knew that voice. It couldn't be real. It belonged to the woman who had supposedly died 12 years ago. Her mother. Then the voice whispered, and your new maid knows exactly where he hid it. The light suddenly returned. Dante turned toward Elena. She was crying, not because she had been exposed, because she finally understood why someone had sent her into this mansion. Her mother hadn't sent her to protect Dante. She had sent her to uncover a secret that could destroy him. And now Dante knew she had lied. But the most terrifying question remained. What had Elena's mother hidden inside the Moretti Empire that was valuable enough to make people kill for it? By morning, Dante had locked down the entire mansion. No employee could leave. No vehicle could enter. Every security camera was being checked. And Elena was no longer treated like a maid. She was watched like a prisoner. 2 guards stood outside her room while Dante disappeared into his father's old vault. He returned 40 minutes later carrying a black metal box. He placed it on his desk. The box was covered in scratches. Old blood stained one corner. Dante opened it. Inside was a photograph. His father, Elena's mother, and a third person whose face had been deliberately burned away. Dante stared at the picture. Elena stood across the room. You've seen this before. She didn't answer. Dante's eyes lifted. Have you? Elena finally nodded. My mother left me a copy. Dante's expression hardened. What else did she leave you? A letter. Where is it? Elena hesitated. With me. Dante stepped forward. Give it to me. No. The answer surprised him. Elena had been quiet since arriving at the mansion. Always obedient. Always careful. Now she was looking directly at the most dangerous man in the city and refusing him. Dante's voice dropped. You're in my house. I know. You lied to me. I know. You entered my life under a false name. I know. His eyes darkened. And you still think you can keep secrets from me? Elena's voice trembled. I think if I give you the letter before I understand it, someone will die. Dante went silent, because Elena wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting him. Before he could respond, an explosion shook the mansion. The windows rattled. The lights flickered. Dante grabbed Elena and pulled her away from the glass. Gunfire erupted outside. His men rushed into the room. Boss, we're under attack. Dante looked toward the cameras. Who? The guard swallowed. Bell Andy. Dante's face turned cold. The Belandi family had been waiting for an opportunity to challenge him. Now they had won. Dante moved through the mansion like a storm. His guards opened fire from the balconies. Black SUVs crashed through the front gate. Men in armored clothing poured onto the property. Elena watched from behind a reinforced window. This wasn't a warning. It was war. Dante's men pushed the attackers back. Then a missile struck the eastern wall. The entire corridor collapsed. Elena was thrown to the floor. When she opened her eyes, smoke filled the room. Dante was nowhere in sight. Dante! No answer. She crawled through the debris. Then she heard a gunshot. Another. She followed the sound. Dante was trapped beneath a fallen beam, his weapon lying several feet away. 3 Belandi soldiers were approaching him. Elena grabbed a fallen pistol. She fired. The first man dropped. The second turned. Elena fired again. The third ran. Dante stared at her. You know how to shoot. Elena lowered the weapon. I told you my mother taught me a lot of things. Dante pushed himself free. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Then he took the gun from her hand. Stay behind me. Elena almost laughed. You're bleeding. So are you. They had both been wounded. Neither cared. Together, they moved through the burning mansion. But the attack was only the beginning. By sunset, 3 Moretti warehouses had been destroyed. 2 captains were dead. Millions in cash had vanished. And one of Dante's most trusted men was missing. Then Luca Belandi called. He didn't threaten Dante. He offered him a deal. Give me the Maid. Dante's expression became lethal. You crossed the wrong line. Luca laughed. I remember him. Dante's expression tightened. Who was he? Elena whispered. Your uncle. Silence. Dante's uncle had supposedly died 15 years ago, but Elena remembered him. And suddenly the entire conspiracy had a face. The attack on Dante's father, her mother's disappearance, the hidden fortune, the Belandi alliance, everything led back to one man, Dante's uncle. Except there was one problem. He had been declared dead. That night, Dante received a video. His uncle appeared on screen, older, alive, and smiling. You finally found the truth. Dante watched without blinking. His uncle continued, Your father left you an empire. He smiled. I left you something much more valuable. The screen changed. A live image appeared. Elena's room. Someone was standing behind her. She turned. A man grabbed her from the shadows. The video cut to black. Dante's blood ran cold. For the first time in his life, he completely lost control. Elena! He ran toward her room. The guards followed. But when Dante reached the door, it was already open. The room was empty. Only Elena's white apron remained on the floor. And pinned to the wall was a single message. Bring me the box your father hid. Dante stared at it. Then his phone rang. His uncle's voice whispered, You wanted to know why Elena was sent into your house. A pause. Ask her mother. Dante looked toward the empty room. But first, the voice became colder. Find out why your father loved her mother enough to die for her. The call ended. Dante stood alone in the hallway. For years, he had believed his father's death was the beginning of his empire. Now he realized it had been the beginning of a lie. And Elena, the maid he had hired because she could cook, was somehow standing at the center of it. The woman he had started to trust had vanished. His enemy had his secret. His uncle was alive. And Black Box was the only thing standing between Dante and the truth. But when Dante returned to his office, the box was gone. Someone had stolen it from his desk. And beneath it was a fresh note. You trusted the maid. Now watch what that trust costs you. Dante found Elena before dawn. Not because his men tracked her. Because Elena had left him a clue. A single grain of saffron was scattered across the floor of the abandoned warehouse. Dante recognized immediately. It was the same saffron Elena had used in the first meal she cooked for him. She knew he would notice, and she knew he would follow. Inside the warehouse, Elena was tied to a chair. Her uncle stood behind her. The missing black box rested on a table between them. You came alone, the old man said. Dante looked around. I came for her. His uncle smiled. That is exactly why you lose everything. He opened the box. Inside was a ledger containing the names of every mafia family that had secretly worked with Dante's father. But beneath the ledger was something else. A recording. Dante's father appeared on an old video. He looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this, my brother has betrayed me." Dante's uncle's smile disappeared. The recording continued. "He wants money. He wants control. But he doesn't understand what the money represents." Dante stared at the screen. His father's final words revealed the truth. The hidden fortune wasn't stolen mafia money. It was evidence, proof of corruption, assassinations, and political deals involving some of the most powerful people in the country. His father had planned to expose everything. Dante's uncle had murdered and stopped it, and Elena's mother had helped hide the evidence. That was why she had disappeared. That was why Elena had been protected from the truth. And that was why the uncle needed her alive. She was the only person who knew where the final piece was hidden. Her memory. Her mother had deliberately erased the location for Elena's childhood memories by leaving clues instead of answers. The uncle raised his gun. "Tell me where it is." Elena looked at Dante. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. She smiled. "You already lost." The warehouse doors exploded open. Dante's men stormed inside. The uncle's guards opened fire. Chaos erupted. Dante moved through the gunfire until he reached Elena. He cut her restraints. Then the two of them ran for cover. His uncle escaped through a side entrance. Dante chased him. The old man reached the roof. There was nowhere left to run. He turned with his gun raised. Dante stood opposite him. For years, Dante had imagined killing the man responsible for his father's death. Now the moment had finally arrived. His uncle smiled. "Go ahead." Dante raised his weapon. Then he lowered it. "You wanted me to become my father." His uncle frowned. "You are nothing like him." Dante looked toward the police vehicles approaching the warehouse. "No." He dropped the gun. "I became something you never expected." The evidence had already been transmitted. Every secret in the ledger was now in the hands of the federal investigators. The uncle was arrested. The Belandi family collapsed within weeks. Several corrupt officials resigned. Dante's criminal empire was dismantled piece by piece. Some businesses were seized. Others were legally transferred. Men who had once feared Dante now testified against people who had built the old network. But Dante accepted every consequence. For the first time, he didn't fight to preserve the empire. He fought when the cycle had destroyed his family. Elena also changed. She no longer hid behind the identity of Maid. She opened a small restaurant using the recipes her mother had taught her. The first dish on the menu was the same meal she had cooked with Dante on his first night. Months later, Dante walked into the restaurant alone. No bodyguards, no expensive suit, no weapons. Just men who had finally learned how to enter someone's life without controlling it. Elena looked up from the kitchen. "You're late." Dante almost smiled. "I know." She placed a plate in front of him. He looked at the food. You still cook for me." "Only when I want to." It was the first time Dante had laughed in years. But the greatest surprise came later. Elena found one final envelope hidden inside her mother's old recipe book. Inside was a handwritten note. The secret was never the money. Below it was another line. It was a people you would choose to protect when the money was gone. Elena looked toward Dante. The Mafia Boss who once owned half the city had lost almost everything. His fortune, his empire, his power. But he had gained something he had never possessed. A choice. He could finally choose who he wanted to be. And he chose her, not as his maid, not as his possession, not as a woman who owed him protection, as a woman who had entered his mansion carrying a cooking knife, and walked out carrying the truth. Years later, people would still whisper about the mysterious maid who changed the fate of the Moretti Empire. Some said he had been sent to destroy Dante. Others believed he had been sent to save him. But only Elena and Dante knew the truth. She had done both. She destroyed the man he used to be, and saved the man he became. Because sometimes the most priceless thing a person can bring into your life isn't money, power, or revenge. Sometimes it's the courage to make you become someone worth loving. And if you were Elena, would you have stayed with Dante after discovering the truth, or walked away from the mafia world forever?